Hey everyone, how's it going? Pixels here. In today's video, I'm giving you a Survivor tier list on Evil Dead the game. I can finally update my tier list now that we have Brock in the game. We've had a few Survivor nerfs as well and a few changes here and there. And on the premises of this tier list, how I'm going to be basing the Survivors or judging the Survivors is I'm going to be doing it as a pre-made. Separately, we could do a solo queue tier list in another video, but this one's going to be primarily how they work well in a team as well. So it's going to be a bit more complicated, and maybe the Survivors are going to be higher than normal. But, you know, I'm still going to be comparing them to what they're like against the other class counterparts, if that would be the right word. You know, the other survivors in the same class as them. So let's jump straight in. So the first one is Amanda. So I've been playing a lot of Amanda recently. Obviously, she's got a new outfit as well, which is awesome. I've been testing her out with the SMG. Obviously, I still think doing like a blunderbuss type of last chance build works really well on her the best. So I mean, Amanda with a team, I'm still gonna put her roughly C tier. I'm not saying she's a terrible survivor. Again, in a pre-made, she can be decent. But I still think, you know, the likes of Hunter Ash and, you know, all the other survivors in Hunter work really well with her. Unfortunately, you know, with her skills, I really think she could perform like be a way better Hunter and possibly the best Hunter in the game if they rework the horrible 9mm pistol mastery that I really dislike. But you know, the consecutive shooting perk, which I think is really good, you know, hitting the deadites to get a little damage buff is nice, and obviously your infinite ammo buff is nice as well. But you know, only really having two useful perks there can kind of bring her down a bit. Not saying that she can't do a lot of damage. Obviously, she can be a high damage output survivor, and she's quite easy to play. And like I said, you know, going by through tier lists, if you're putting a character down here in D tier, it doesn't mean they're absolutely terrible. It just means that in their own way, they're better. Like, other survivors can perform better than them, if that makes sense. So let's move on anyway. So the next one is David. David's actually not a bad healer or support character to have on the team. Obviously, he has his damage reduction there. He has his Beacon of Hope ability, which can, you know, bring fire down, or bring fear level down, sorry, against, you know, and that works really well against Baal, which is the new demon. However, I'm still going to put him around C tier. You know, nail gun mastery, we've got to look at that again. Compared to the other support characters, he definitely doesn't perform as well as like a support Ash or a Cheryl. So yeah, I think around C tier is probably right for him. Okay, so we're going to move on to Mia. Mia in a pre-made, I think, is probably B tier. Again, not saying that she's terrible, but compared to other warriors, I think, you know, she does struggle a bit to keep up with them. I think she's a Wish version of Scotty, if I'm being honest. And the way you have to play her is very counterproductive to playing Survivor. Obviously, having to keep your fear level relatively high to actually get an improved amount of damage. And then obviously having the bleed damage then, she can be very squishy on top of that. I think Mia is actually probably one of the most overrated characters in this game. And like I said, I don't think she's terrible, but, you know, having a machete mastery there again, really bringing her down a peg a bit on the warrior skill tree side of things. So for me, I think she belongs in B tier, honestly. Hunter Ash is going straight into S tier. I think he's arguably one of the best, if not the best characters in the game. Obviously, working as a team with support Ash and with Hunter Ash, sorry, he can obviously tag crates for the team members. You know, you find your pink fuck upgrades a lot easier that way. Not only that, but there's different strategies you can have for Hunter Ash where you can map rush or map piece rush everything, and that way, you know, you're kind of taking the aggro on yourself for the demon, and the other three teammates can obviously survive and collect a lot of ammo for yourself and for themselves, and get a lot of supplies that way when you do get to the objective. So I think Hunter Ash, honestly, arguably the best character in the game. And, you know, it used to be Army of Darkness Ash for me, but I'm really thinking that it's going to be Hunter Ash at this point. Ed Getley's not a terrible hunter. I have been playing him a little bit recently, and they did do a nice little change to his ability. So he can't actually disable traps that are already set now, so that's good. So we're going to put him probably B tier. Again, not saying he's a terrible character. However, we're looking at the mastery side of things, like a crossbow mastery. He does work well for kind of buffing up loot for the team as well. But again, you know, being B tier isn't terrible for the character. I just think that other hunters do perform better than him, and he's not on the same level as them as well. So we're going to move on to Kelly. Kelly, for me, she's a bit of a controversial one. She's a weird one because she's a hybrid between obviously warrior and hunter. And the best thing about Kelly is that she can conserve ammo, but that really is only good in solo queue, I would say, because if you're playing in like a pre-made team, your pre-made survivors or your teammates will usually have enough ammo for you, and which is fine because I think Kelly performs well with her bleed damage, etc. So I'm probably going to put her, if I can, I'm going to put her above Mia on B tier. I think she's better than Mia, honestly. I think her bleed damage ability is better than Mia's bleed damage ability. She does have her Meat Hammer Mastery again, which does help out to conserve ammunition there as well. So I think Kelly, if you have her Prestige 5 as well, I think she can be really, really like a big potential survivor to be almost A tier, honestly, a high A tier character, because, you know, just being able to put more points into the survivability side of things and then having the damage output for the bleed damage with her, I think, you know, once you start stacking bleed damage with her active ability as well, I just think it works really good. And honestly, I think she's a solid hunter in the game. So the next one is Annie. Annie, I'm probably going to put in A tier. Again, you know, she's more balance bar and range focused, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't perform well with warriors or anything like that. I just think, you know, in a pre-made team, Annie can work really well, especially defending the Necronomicon phase, which can be the most painful phase in the game. And she works well with a lot of different survivors too. And, you know, most pre-made teams you will see running an Annie because of this, and that's why I think she belongs in A tier. I honestly think she is a good leader. The next one, El Jefe. El Jefe, I have him Prestige 5 level 30. He is one of my mains, and for me, I'm going to put him in A tier, probably just above Annie. I think he is better than Annie, mainly because of the fear resistance. Now that ball factors into the game now, El Jefe just offers so much fear resistance and helps the team out that way. It stops the demon from possessing survivors so easily, stops them from getting threat levels so easily as well, so I think he works out well with that. And then not only that, but, you know, he has a method of playing the game where it's like spamming finishes and stuff like that. But yeah, I think he is a solid leader, and I think he probably belongs in A tier. The next one is Lord Arthur. Lord Arthur's probably getting dropped down a peg here because he's really fallen short behind all the other leaders in the game. I'm probably gonna put him around B tier, mid B tier, maybe just slightly better than Ed. Mainly because, you know, looking in pre-made squads, yes, it's nice to have the warriors there, and he does buff up the hunter melee damage as well, which can work well, and obviously work well with a support Ash. The thing is with Lord Arthur is that he just doesn't really offer enough for a long period of time compared to what El Jefe offers. And of course, Annie, obviously it's just a melee damage buff, which is fine. However, there's a lot of other factors in the game now where, with, you know, with fear resistance and looking after your fear that way, that kind of makes things more important than just a simple melee buff. He is a fun character to play though, and he is still a viable option. Like I said, B tier doesn't mean they're terrible. I just feel like he doesn't perform as well as the other leaders in the game. Support Ash for me is going to go straight into S tier. A pre-made support Ash who is really good at the game. I think he is fantastic. I think, you know, he will outperform a Cheryl all the time, almost all the time. It's just having that self-sustainable healing whilst also doing damage and helping your team doing damage, I think works out great. And I know a lot of people think, oh, Cheryl's OP, but, you know, Cheryl can be relatively useless if you don't have enough callers for her. Of course, pre-made squads are always going to have enough callers for Cheryl as well. But yeah, I just think support Ash still helping out with the damage and healing the team just works way better, especially if you've got hunters on your team hitting those headshots. Performing headshots on boss units and possessed units works really great on that guy. So I definitely think he belongs in S tier. The next one is Cheryl. So a lot of people are probably going to hate me for this, but I'm actually going to put Cheryl A tier. Reason why I think Cheryl in pre-mades doesn't just perform as well as support Ash. That's the main reason I'm putting her in A tier. Obviously, yeah, she can be, you know, loads of demons and survivors say, oh, she's really OP, she can carry 8 callers, but then you look at the other side of things, like, what else does she really offer? And she had her fear reduction nerf from drinking a cola too, so I think it just brings her down a peg, honestly. Like I said, she's not going to be terrible because she's in A tier. I just don't think she's one of the best survivors in the game anymore. Again, they can be a pain in the ass, Cheryls, but they're very easy targets for demons now, and the way support Ash players play, they can deal with demons a lot easier than what a Cheryl can, so that's why I'm putting her in A tier there. Pablo, unfortunately for me, is going to go in C tier, just above David. I think he's better than David. mainly because he can throw out his own amulets. And, you know, in the right team comp, he can work well. In pre-mades, obviously throwing out amulets for warriors, etc. But, you know, compared to the other support characters, he's definitely not performing as well as a support Ashe or a Cheryl there. And, you know, I think he's just slightly better than David. You got to look at as a whole, like what they do offer, the team compared to what the other supports offer. And honestly, I just don't think Pablo offers that much. He is, you know, relatively decent. Obviously, I just don't know what's going on with his skill tree. Obviously, he is based around amulets, but, you know, they buffed him up so then, you know, you can hide from the demon for like 8 seconds, while making your teammates hide from the demon for 8 seconds, which, again, I feel is quite bizarre, and it's a very strange buff that they gave him, but I honestly don't think that puts him anything higher than C tier. Next one is Army of Darkness Ashe. Army of Darkness Ashe, I'm probably just going to put an S tier as always. This guy is my main. You know, he was my first Prestige 5 level 30 survivor. I actually think he is one of those clutch survivors. All, you know, even if your whole team is dead, you still have a chance with this guy. He can manage his own fear level, he can heal himself, he can regenerate shield, do a lot of damage as well if you build him right. So in a pre-made, Army of Darkness Ashe can be very, very strong, and honestly I think he can almost carry any situation like that. You know, especially objectives, clutching objectives with this guy for your teammates to respawn. He is so good at doing that, and I think he belongs in S tier, honestly. And the next one's Henry the Red. Henry the Red, I'm probably just going to put high A tier. So Henry, yes, he has the invulnerability. So yes, Henry's a big tank. He has the ability to be invulnerable for a massive amount of time, getting the clutch revives and stuff. So, you know, he can do really well there. However, I think he falls down a bit on the damage side of things, especially when, you know, damage is starting to become really important in games where, you know, you don't want too many overwhelming situations where there's, you know, not enough DPS going on against a possessed unit. Obviously, he can attack possessed units without taking damage, but then, you know, it's all about time and his skill, right? So in a pre-made team, ideally, you know, you'll have one warrior and one hunter. And if my one warrior is Henry, I'm gonna be kind of worried there. I feel like Henry only really works well with a double warrior type of I think Henry only really works well in like a double warrior type of team comp. I know obviously the hunter would be there to do the damage, but again, sometimes you really need the 2 warriors there to start like soaking up damage and dealing damage, especially at the book phase. So book phase becomes very important in this particular tier list as well, and that's what I'm kind of basing it on too. You know, most of the early game stuff you can pretty much survive unless it's a ball can be quite difficult with that, but Henry is, you know, Henry still struggles against Ball compared to all the other demons. So for me, I think he belongs in A tier. I just don't think he performs as well as, say, as an Army of Darkness Ashe, which has kind of the overall hybrid type of tank damage stuff that goes on with him. The next one is Scotty. Scotty I've been playing a lot of recently as well, and I'm going to put him probably above Henry the Red. Honestly, I've been playing a lot of Scotty. You know, having a lumberjack axe mastery just really puts this guy up, and his heavy attacks, once you get this guy prestige as well, obviously his heavy attacks do a little bit more damage to surrounded units, so he's really good for crowd control. He's really good at the book phase. The only problem is when he gets possessed can be a bit of a problem for the team, but honestly I think an experienced Scotty player knows how to play him and how to avoid the dangerous situations like that, so I think he belongs in A tier personally. The next one is Blacksmith. Blacksmith I'm going to throw right down in D tier. I just don't like this character. Like, I like the character himself. I think he's fun and he's funny to play. I just don't think he's practical enough compared to, you know, the lack of a range weapon, I think, is a big drawback on this guy. You know, he struggles really hard to defend himself against warrior. And, you know, you could argue, oh, why don't you just dodge and run away from a warrior? If you're in a pre-made as well, you know, that is possible. However, you know, he's not healing the team a lot. You know, he's crafting really shitty weapons. Like, I've been playing a lot of Blacksmith recently as well. Don't get me wrong, I said I have a lot of fun playing this guy. I just don't think he is that good of a support character anymore, and I've really got to bring him down. And obviously the amulet stuff as well, I just think he's worse than Pablo and David. I think Blacksmith just doesn't offer enough as a support character to really put him any higher than D tier in this tier list. And the next one is Ruby. So Ruby I'm going to put straight into S tier. You know, Ruby, she has actually just been nerfed a little bit with her damage, though they fixed her damage output. But she still has 4 auras and a lot of, you know, the cooldown reduction, the stamina regeneration. You know, she has a lot of stuff on her aura, which just makes her really, really strong. And I think she is still the best leader in the game. And with most pre-made squads, if you don't see an Annie, you will see a Ruby. And it's more than likely going to be Ruby. You know, Ruby combined. You know, if you look at the top 4 then, S tier, that's arguably the best team in this game right now. If not Ruby, probably Leader Ashe, because of the whole ball scenario with the fear resistance and stuff. That works great. But yeah, honestly, looking at the top team, you know, even her support Ashe, Army Darkness Ashe, and Hunter Ashe, I think, you know, you're going to be winning a lot of games with those 4 survivors. And so the next one is obviously Brock. Brock is the new survivor in the game. Spent a lot of time playing him, spent a lot of time playing with him on my team as well. And I think he belongs in A tier. Probably better than Annie, if I'm being honest. I can't rate him higher than El Jefe. I'm sorry, that's just me personally. I don't think he does enough to put him above El Jefe. That fear resistance on Leader Ashe, especially for a pre-made team, can just be so good. And the best thing about Leader Ashe is that he's so focused on, you know, just doing melee combat and doing finishes that you have so many more skill points to spend into, like, fast forward. Yes, Leader Ashe doesn't have a great active ability, but he makes up for that with his aura buffs. Honestly, I think they're really fantastic. Going back to Brock, he's really dependent on who's in the team. Yes, you could argue that, you know, he carries 5 Shemps, he carries 5 amulets, and, you know, stacked with a Cheryl, stacked with, you know, the other Ashes, he can be very strong with all the damage reduction and stuff like that. Now they've actually, you know, put a cap on damage reduction at 55%. You can't go any higher than that. So I'm not entirely sure what the math works out, having, you know, 3 Williams family members on the team, including him. But you know, it's going to be roughly about 28% damage reduction there, I think. Just off the top of my head, it's just some rough numbers here. And then once you start doing, like, you know, 10% from Army of Darkness Ashe with his Tougher Than Hell, and you start doing Reinforced Amulet, 10% damage reduction there. You know, you've then nearly got 48%. And then, you know, you're really going to, you know, you're not going to be able to put points into, like, Seasoned Survivor there for more damage reduction. So, again, I just don't think it works that well. And yeah, it's just kind of capped at 55%, which I suppose isn't too bad, you know, 55% damage reduction. Obviously, his aura is a bit different as well. It depends on who's on his team. If there's an extra leader, warrior, support character, you know, there's little cooldown reductions and damage buffs and fear resistance here and there. But he is a good leader. He's got a good active ability, and all his abilities are useful. I just think he performs better in solo queue rather than a pre-made. I think a pre-made squad definitely benefits more from having a Ruby or a Leader Ashe compared to any other leader in the game. I know people run Annie quite a lot. Yes, I think Annie is good, but I'm just trying to factor in here that we have Ball in the game now. And Annie, yeah, she could perform decent against Ball. Obviously, range damage, balance bar damage. But I'm all about having fear resistance on the team now, and I really think Leader Ashe performs better there. But anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this tier list video. I know it's kind of a quick one. I didn't really go into too much depth as to some of my choices here, but I've done a lot of tier lists in the past, and you get a bit tired repeating yourself why I'm putting that person there, why I'm putting that person there, and it's usually boils down to their skills, comparing them to the other characters in their class where they just kind of underperform and they don't do as well. But anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this tier list video. Leave me a comment down below, let me know what you guys think, where you guys would personally place survivors in the tier list yourself. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave me a like, hit that subscribe button if you are new to the channel. I do a lot of Evil Dead content on this channel, so you don't have to go anywhere else, especially for my streams. I stream everything here as well, so I've got it all in one place for you guys. And thank you guys so much for watching. I've been Pixels, you my awesome viewers. I'll catch you guys in the next one.